From WDWNT, the worldwide leader in Disney parks news, this is ParksCenter. Hello there, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of ParksCenter. My name's Ben, and joining me we have Allison.
Hello, everyone.
Live in studio, it's Jill.
Hello.
And Rob.
I'm taking it this week, Sivaco!
Nice. And a new face to ParksCenter, Kamila. Hello, how you doing? Oh, I think you might be muted.
Yes. Sorry. Hi,
Yep.
everyone.
It's a rite of passage. It's fine.
It worked.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody. Let's go ahead and kick things off with our first story tonight. Hong Kong Disneyland is going to be reopening with, honestly, like, we had really no lead time on this at all. So this story came out on the 14th, just about 3 days ago at this point, that they're going to be reopening to the public tomorrow on June 18th. Like, this is... That was really quick.
Yeah, you know what? This actually came out on Sunday night while we were doing pressing issues, and it was like, oh yeah, by the way, they're going to be open Friday. I mean, it's kind of crazy, especially with as much lead time as we have for Disney World and Disneyland, to think that they can go, you know what, you think we can get this open by the end of the week? Sure, let's do it. Let's get it open by the end of the week. That's exciting, though.
You know, it sort of makes sense for the nature of that park. It's from what I understand, because I haven't gotten to go inside the park, but I've been near it. It is the closest to like 1955 Disneyland that you can experience. It's more of like this half day afternoon thing that like local people there can decide on a whim to just go in the park. There's not like a ton if any thrill rides. It's like just like a really chill afternoon, charming day. And so I think like if any park is gonna open on a whim without needing people's like pre-planning, like this is the one to throw into the fire for that.
Yeah, and related to that, something that I thought was really interesting was the legal disclaimer or the health disclaimer that they were having people sign said that you had to confirm that you hadn't left Hong Kong in the past 14 days. So I thought that was really interesting, and it just kind of speaks to they're really just expecting and I think hoping for people who are local there.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
it definitely does seem like a locals park, yeah.
The whole health certification, and like you have to certify that you don't think you're sick, and yeah, it absolutely seems like they are trying to get that local vibe. And it's interesting because seeing the way things are here, I think that's what's happening as well, and not because they're necessarily putting things in place, but I think the Walt Disney World system is going to do that on its own simply because you're not going to be guaranteed a park reservation, so people are going to hesitate to make that trip. And I wonder if that's almost on purpose as a way to try to tamp down initially, at least, on people traveling to come to Walt Disney World.
Yeah, and we've already seen. Oh, don't go ahead.
No, I just like the other thing that I was thinking as I was looking at that health certification is like, couldn't I like just sign it regardless? Like I could have symptoms, know I have symptoms, sign it and still go. And like I just wonder, like, it's a legal disclaimer, so is it a way for like Disney to come after like someone who visits? And like I don't know, it was weird to me. It didn't quite, like, you know, why wouldn't you just check that box regardless?
It's a piece of paper. It's not. It's in no way like a substitute for like a proper health screening. I guess it could have some kind of deterrent effect, but like realistically, is like Disney gonna like come after people who like maybe had a sore throat before they entered the park? Like,
right.
No, and that would be like a really weird look for Disney to start like suing guests who later just develop symptoms. Like, I saw you. We have some video of you on a queue coughing. and then later you tested positive for COVID-19 and you signed this declaration before you entered. We're now going to sue you. Like, that's just going to be weird. But I think it makes people feel like a little bit better, or at least makes people think before they enter the park, like, oh yeah, there's a pandemic. Maybe I should stay home if I have a fever.
You know, that's a great
This
point.
brings like
Allison,
a whole new.
Good.
I was just going to say, this brings a whole new kind of spin to the idea of pre-existing conditions. And like, before it was, you know, you don't get health insurance if you have pre-existing conditions. We moved away from that, and now you can't come to Disney World if you have pre-existing conditions.
Or pre-existing conditions is now not like your life in your lifetime. It's like 12 hours ago. Did you experience?
Right. You can have cancer, that's fine, but you can't have a cough. That's...
No fever.
I mean, you can't catch cancer. Like, that's...
Wow.
And now we're laughing about cancer.
I think I might be one of the few very safe cancer jokes. You can't catch cancer. That's not a thing.
Correct.
Well, I'm not sure that's really a joke. You know what, though? I was just going to say it does. I think it is two things that you said, Allison. One is it is a deterrent. I think that whenever you do something like that, it's just it's kind of like a morality check. Like, are you sure? Like, you're not, you know, I really feel like that is a deterrent. For some people, it would be for me. And the second part is that I do think that it is also to help you feel better about it, to say, oh, they are taking precautions. I think that's what bag check was after 9/11. I think that's what the temperature screenings are, is that it's not just we're protecting everybody, but I feel safer because you're taking measures to ensure my safety. I
personally think that all of the security stuff, the bag checks and the health thing, is not so much to make you feel safer, but more so to make to cover Disney's rear. Like, this is legal CYA, I think. Because if somebody goes into the park and has that and then spreads it around, they can't. People who catch it can't sue Disney anymore, or at least I think that's what they're trying for. I don't know if that'll hold up in a court or not, but I think that's what they want. Is that?
Well, I don't disagree with that.
We asked every person who came in here and made them sign a legal document stating that they were not symptomatic with this disease, and then they came in anyways and spread it around. That's not on us. We did the best we could. We screened people. We asked them questions. We can't be held negligent anymore, is what I think they're shooting for.
Yeah, but I mean, on top of that, though, there is a level of I feel more confident because you are taking these measures. Because I mean, that's one of the things that they talk about when they have all these like welcome back, whether it's like Carowinds or Six Flags or whatever. They're saying we are taking measures to help you feel better. And I think that when people know that you have to wear a mask and you're getting your temperature checked and all that, even if it is coming from a place of CYA, I do think that there is something that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable to say, hey, they are taking care of us. They are looking out for us. I feel a little safer to go to this place because it's the happiest or, the most magical place on earth at Disney and the happiest at Disneyland. So it's one of those where you usually go in and you want to feel safe. And when they take these measures, it helps you kind of get over that and maybe get back to it. But I know that there's still a lot of people who, no matter what they do, until there's a vaccine, they don't want to go back.
Yep. Well, you mentioned the bag checks. It looks like there might be a little bit of a new wave, I guess I'll say, of technology coming for bag checking. So this new contactless security and bag check system is being tested by Disney at this point. This technology honestly looks pretty cool and has the ability to scan a lot more people a lot more quickly than standard security lines do. This surprised me a little bit, though, because I thought a lot of this technology wasn't like here. I thought this was something that was going to be years down the line. I didn't think we were close enough to commercial implementations. Yeah, it feels a little bit like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think I was. I like that this is going to be speedier, and I like the contactless nature. Like sometimes you get like really friendly, sweet security guards, and it like starts your day off great. They're like engaging, and sometimes they're like kind of crabby and really taciturn, and I already like just starting off my day in the parks and I'm already feeling like this is not the greatest day. So I kind of like the idea that we can just like keep it moving and move through it. But I think, Ben, you had some thoughts as to like the kind of technology that they're using and safety, right?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of research into this company, and they have two different kinds of machines that they make. One that uses millimeter wave technology, and the other that uses magnetic fields. Millimeter wave technology is that stuff in the airport where you hold your hands up in the giant tube and it spins around you once. That technology is honestly, to me and a few other people, a little scary, because that is some new stuff that is shooting radiation at your body. It is been deemed to be low energy and not penetrating the skin, so it is safe enough for use on humans regularly, but it's still, it's not been around for a long time, and it kind of puts me on edge. The magnetic fields that they use, that's just essentially a complicated metal detector, which has been around for forever and ever. That's not shooting anything at your body. It's just looking at magnetic fields as you walk through, which is a lot safer, at least in my head. And it turns out that the model that Disney is looking at is the magnetic field-based one. Because that one is actually higher bandwidth. You can actually get more people through using that technology than you can the millimeter wave stuff, because you don't have to walk single file. You can have multiple people you can walk through while you're holding your child's hand, and it'll be able to figure everything out just as quick. So points to Disney for taking the solution that makes me happier, and also is a little faster.
You know, one of the things though that Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to quickly say, like, where was this during Rise of the Resistance? Like, I'm thinking about those like 25-minute lines at Disneyland that like stretched all the way to downtown Disney. I mean, I just, you know, I love that we're getting here. I just wish we had gotten here like February.
Yeah, I was just going to say, though, that one of the things, and I'm not sure, Ben, maybe you can speak to this a little bit more, but in talking with Kevin, our reporter who was out there, this is not 100% walk through with whatever you're carrying and be on your merry way. He said that they were still having to pull you if you have a backpack and go through your backpack, which to me is disappointing, because I thought this was going to be an all-in-one solution that was going to stop that bottleneck at the front gates and be able to make it so you walk through, because that's what they show in the video. If you watch the video that's on the web, on our site, it shows the video of the people walking into like a convention center, and just as they walk through, they're being scanned for everything. That's the thing that kind of troubles me. And again, you may have different information, but from what Kevin was saying, if it was anything larger than like a tote bag, you had to have it individually, like they pulled you aside and still had to go through the bag, which again, to me, that's the problem that we have versus the universal scanners, that they have, the airport style scanners for your bags, because you've got this for a body check, but it should be like, it would be great if it did everything, so you wouldn't have to stop at all and do two different stations.
Yeah, it would make sense to me if Disney during this trial is being overly cautious. Just because they don't know how great the technology is yet. They want to test it with just smaller bags and then like slowly step their way up. Like you said, it does show in the video that like everybody just funnel through these things en masse with no secondary screening unless they have reason to suspect something.
Right.
Hopefully we get to that point, but honestly, even if we don't, it is still a lot faster to do this for people with small bags, because now it's not just bagless and everyone else. It is small bags, light bags, things that clearly this machine would be able to read versus a full backpack. So hopefully that'll just cut down on wait times for everybody.
Hopefully.
Just not bloggers. Because they're the ones who come to theme parks with backpacks crammed full of laptops and cameras and lenses and everything else.
And as long as it will detect if you're bringing a barbecue into Disney Springs, then...
Oh, my God. Oh, please do not barbecue in the parks. But you can potentially barbecue at your resort. Just don't do it in the room. Because if you do housekeeping, we'll get very mad at you. Even though they're only going to be in there every other day, coming very soon. See, I'm the master of segues. I'm very good at this. The online check-in service has been updated at this point to reflect the fact that housekeeping at Walt Disney World is going to be a light cleaning, which is going to take place every other day at this point. So in order to minimize the amount of exposure of both you to the housekeeping staff and vice versa, they are cutting down the amount of work that's being done in your rooms while you're staying there. I believe it's essentially just replacing towels, toiletries, and taking out the trash at this point. DVC people might recognize this as normal service.
More frequent than normal DVC service, actually.
Yeah.
Still, yeah. So I'm just gonna say, so we're staying. Jason and I and our mom are down here right now. We're staying in a Marriott timeshare. That's like a few minutes away. They told us flat out when we checked in, there is zero housekeeping service. They are typically, because it's a timeshare, more on a DVC kind of schedule where they would normally come in twice a week during your stay, but they are doing zero housekeeping. They will give you more towels if you want. They will bring you more toiletries if you ask, but there is no housekeeping service whatsoever. So typical stays are a week. You normally book it for a full week. Zero housekeeping service. Also, zero of the restaurants, their little sort of marketplace shop where you can buy like a bottle of water or a box of cereal or things like that, similar to what the DVC resorts have, completely closed. No access to any of that. So
Wow.
I understand this may seem kind of weird, but I don't think this is remotely abnormal for what other hotels are doing.
That's a really good comparison point. I had no idea.
Yeah, I was
haven't been
pretty
outside my
stunned
house,
when we
so.
checked in. Yeah. And they were like, no, we have zero housekeeping. Your room is not getting cleaned while you are here. We hope you
Don't make a
understand, but
mess.
that is just what's happening. Yeah. If you make a mess, you'll clean it up yourself.
I assume they would clean it between stays.
Yes, I would assume they have to
Okay.
come in and like do a full cleaning and disinfect things in between guests. That seems like that would be, you know, a liability if they did not. But for you, during the duration of your stay, they are not cleaning your room.
Yeah.
I just hope the housekeeping staff is like getting paid the same as before, and they're still staffed up, because there's, you know, so much, so many unintended consequences and so much economic fallout from it that like I think these people who already work so hard, I hope that they are being taken care of.
Just from what I've seen, I mean, being out down here, there are far fewer restrictions in Orlando around things like shopping, restaurants, all of that, than there are back home in Pennsylvania. So this is a bit of a new weird experience for me, because I can go I sat inside a restaurant today. I haven't done that since the beginning of March. So that was crazy to me. But it's very apparent that kind of all of these service and quote not essential businesses the staffing is definitely reduced. And a lot of it's because capacity is reduced, or in the case of a hotel, the demand is reduced. So I really don't think they are staffed to the level. I don't know if they're, you know, paying their employees or not. I'm sure that's on a case by case basis, but the staffing level is absolutely not there for just about everything.
I really do hope they're getting taken care of too. Like, honestly, I think these folks deserve hazard pay, but
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, if anything, I hope the people that are working get paid more because they are putting themselves at risk. Sure.
yeah. You know who else is putting themselves at risk? That felt bad as soon as I did it.
It's a good one. Go for it. Plow through, Ben.
Who are putting themselves at risk? Jason Bourne and everybody who's acting in the Bourne Stuntacular over at Universal. This show just started going into technical rehearsals this week. It is a very cool show. I unfortunately haven't seen it in person, but I have seen video of the show at this point. and it looks absolutely astonishing. The set work in this looks so cool, and of course, like all the stunts, the actors, everything like that. But this just kind of blows me away. So we're gonna go full Universal Center for a minute here, and dive into this. Has anybody else seen this yet? I know, Jill, you're actually in Florida right now. Have you gotten a chance to see the tech rehearsals for this yet?
No, I haven't. We actually haven't made it to Universal Studios side of the park. We only have been to Island so far, so I have not gotten to see this, but it is absolutely on the to-do list within the next few days. So,
has anybody taken a look at the videos or photos, really, of any of this?
Honestly, I tried not to.
Nice. Oh,
that's fair. Yeah, Rob, you do a lot of the I don't want it spoiled stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would like the Terminator show was a really cool show, so I'm excited to see what they do with this, and especially since it's a property that they own. But I do think that it's one that's a little bit like not as universal. There you go, Ben. As Terminator, but like when I talk to like my daughter about this, she's like, I don't know what Bourne Identity is. So I do think it's going to be interesting to see the show, but I don't want to see the show until I can see it. But I did watch a walkthrough of the queue that someone else had recorded on YouTube and saw Tom in their video, so that made me happy.
So here's something to bring it back to Disney World. We have our own stunt show, the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, that has been in the studio since the year it opened. It hasn't really changed much since then either. Is this something that's going to kind of push that show to innovate, maybe implement some of the technology, some of the fancier things that this show does, or even change it to the point where it stops being about like how they do the stunts and more of a just a story? Because honestly, this show is just a story. They don't like do a scene and then break down how they did it or something like that. It is a contiguous story the whole way through. So do we think this is going to have an impact on Disney, or is this just its own thing?
I feel like it's just a chance for people to get out of the heat and to sit in some air conditioning. And you could have, I feel like, almost anything on there. I think it's cool that the early reviews, people seem to be really impressed by it. I do agree that it just does seem kind of odd that it's like, I guess I just didn't know like the Bourne series was that universal. I don't know. I thought it had kind of run its course. So the fact that it's coming out now just kind of is interesting. But I feel like for both that and the Indiana Jones show, it's kind of one of those, you see it the first time and it probably affects you one way, and then you watch it again later because you just want a chance to rest. And it's like a people eater.
That's fair.
Yeah, you know what?
A lot
I
of
think
shows
for
are like that.
For the Indiana Jones, though, like I think they would really kind of have to pull like a Theater in the Wild, Finding Nemo sort of a situation and enclose that theater and do something completely different than what they've got right now. Because I think that to like part of the reason that they stop is that they have these ginormous sets and they have to take time to move things in and out while they're changing, and so that's why when they take the opportunity to talk to the audience, and it was designed for that. It was designed for a let us show you how we make the movies behind the scene type of thing. So while I think that's a little bit maybe a tad cringy in 2020, I still think there's something almost classic about it, especially since it was there at the beginning. So it's one of those things that I kind of like it for what it is. But I think to do the kind of things, if the Bourne show is like the Terminator show, I think to do those kind of things, they'd absolutely have to change the setup of that theater and then change all the effects, really. So it'll be interesting to see if the new Indiana Jones movie, when it comes out, ends up having an effect on this show. But I would doubt they would change that show until they had something like Indiana Jones 5 to do it for.
Yeah.
And the hush fell across the crowd.
I mean, you did a great job with that, but I am unfortunately going to stall out on my transition machine here. Moving on to something we talked about last week on the show briefly. this Reflections, a Disney lakeside lodge, which is in the location that River Country once was. Its construction has stalled at this point, and the project has been reportedly canceled. This has not been confirmed by anybody yet. It is just rumors. But this is honestly a little surprising to me. It makes sense to me that the construction would stall out right now. It would be difficult to do a lot of construction work in this environment. But canceling the whole thing, like they dedicated a lot of resources to that. Are they did they finally realize that River Country was better than this, and they're gonna just fix it?
It's not coming back, Ben.
I want it back.
No.
It's gone. It's gone.
We have to give up the ghost of River Country. It was already. Yeah, nature had overtaken that. It was just unsalvageable. I think really what this is what my understanding is there's a ton of inventory right now for DVC, and building a whole other resort with several hundred more rooms is not going to help with the balance of the demand and inventory. And so they're just we have to, in order to keep the prices and the value continuing to rise over time, they have to make certain cuts. And I'm probably in the minority here, but I'm a little bit sad about this because I like the concept art for this. I think it looked like a Frank Lloyd Wright hotel, and it was had a little bit of a classiness. And I like that they were doing something with the space. I really like Fort Wilderness, and River Country just sitting there rotting was hurting my heart. And I know that the inside of this hotel seems to it just it lacks for a cohesive theme, and they've got Pocahontas in one place, and then in another place they have Tiana, and it's Bambi somewhere. It just doesn't really know what it is. But I liked the way the outside looked, and I liked the Pocahontas statue and the leaves surrounding her, and I liked the dining concept art with all the windows where you could see out to the forest. And there was something I was just looking forward to staying here and having another Magic Kingdom hotel option. So it's sad for me.
Yeah, to me, I think this mostly speaks to, I think they feel this speaks to the future of DVC for the coming years, and how concerned they are about how this is going to recover, because there's so much inventory, because there were, a little over 3 months where people had no ability to spend their DVC points. And even now going forward, how many people are going to spend their DVC points, which are not cheap, when they can't be guaranteed a park reservation? So people from out of town who maybe save up and they're changing the way you can save up and borrow against your points for right now. So people that would save up and do a huge family trip once every 2 years, they can't do that right now. So this is absolutely, DVC is in a weird place that I think they are very far away from figuring out, and adding another hotel and all of that inventory to it at this point in time is just adding, another layer of problems that they don't know how to solve.
Yeah. And I feel like it was also probably an easy decision to just cut the cost for this. I feel like they're doing what almost every company in the country is doing, which is really taking a hard look at budget, any projects, and just saying, what can we get rid of?
Yeah, there's been a lot of cuts across a lot of boards. It makes sense. Mm-hmm. And our last topic for the evening. So in 3 days from when we're recording this live, Wednesday on the 17th, so that would be on the 20th, we're starting to look at resorts opening back up, I believe. Do I have that date right? Is 22nd? I'm sorry, 22nd.
Yeah.
Or 5 days off. Apologies. That bottom bar is wrong. It is 5. I can count. But we're starting to see a couple concerning things. Orlando as a whole has been going up in confirmed cases, not down. And we've also just earlier today had an employee over the T-Rex Cafe in Disney Springs testing positive for COVID-19. However, but at the same time, we've started to see new temperature screening areas getting set up for the Disney Resort guests arriving by bus. So it looks like things are still moving forward, but I guess, are they going to continue moving forward, and should they be? I feel really conflicted about this, because on the one hand, I want to see everything back open again. I want things to go back to normal, but I also don't want people getting hurt. And it sounds like things may not be going perfect at this point, unfortunately.
So I literally walked past T-Rex Cafe 3 hours ago, maybe not even 3 hours ago, and it was open. So there's that. Governor DeSantis just said today, we are not closing up again. He kind of, I mean, obviously that's not something that's, irreversible or whatever, but it's the rhetoric right now. And on the flip side of that, however, I think, to me, maybe this is part of why Disney chose to wait so long to reopen things, is in case this happens and they felt like they needed to be like, no, wait, we're not going to open the parks. I don't know. It's so difficult. I was just going to say, Allison said earlier, there are so many consequences. And so this is, what do you do? What choice do you make? I'm sorry, go ahead, Kamila.
No, it's been so interesting to me as like someone who, I live closer to Disneyland and I go there more often, but I go to Disney World often also. And it's just so interesting to see like the culture around the two different parks opening. Like in California, people are openly against it. And like there's a petition to get Disneyland not to open. But on Disney World, they're just like, yeah, go ahead, it's fine, like regardless. I feel like I don't see Disney pushing it back or not opening. I feel like I just feel like they're going to move ahead. Like they've gone this far now. One question I do have though is, as they start to have employees who have cases, or even, maybe customers who have been there recently and had cases, like I just wonder, how transparent are they going to be about that? Like, are they going to say, hey, this person who worked here, recently tested positive? That's kind of the question that I have, is how transparent are they going to be?
Yeah, it's really tricky. When I first saw the T-Rex story, like my husband, who is like even more like neurotic about this crisis than I am, we're fully shut down, but like he makes sure that like we don't go anywhere basically because we are able to not. But he was like, oh man, can you imagine trying to contact trace somebody who's like an employee at Disney? And it's like, it's impossible because there's just like so many people coming in and out all the time. And like it just makes it like a logistical nightmare. But I think for that reason, like Disney has to be really transparent, and it's going to look really bad if they try to be opaque. But I said this in the beginning when they first announced the dates, like that they're going to always push this back. And I think that there's still a good chance that could happen, especially as, we're seeing the cases in Florida rise. It's now like 3,000 new cases a day. And like a week ago, it was more like 1,500 new cases a day. And this can like become, they can be, 3,000 can turn into 9,000 really quickly. Like that's what we saw in New York City. That's what like we're seeing in places that have become hubs. And like once that happens, and if the hospitals are overwhelmed, I think like they're going to have no choice but to push things back. And that's why we saw a date so far out for their opening. Things can always change. It's really hard to plan for the future these days. It's been like the last 3 months of everyone's lives, like hard to project.
Yeah. Well, that is going to do it for this week's show. Thank you all for joining us, and a big shout out to all of our WIGs, or WDWNT Interglobe Society members. That's how we refer to our patrons. If you haven't yet, you can head on over to patreon.com/WDWNT. For as little as $2 a month, you can get access to our post show, which is coming up in just a moment, the post show for News Tonight, and a whole host of other benefits, including access to the podcast backlog, including all of the Christmas Podcast Parade episodes. I keep touting this, but it's because they're so good. If you haven't listened to these, I'd highly recommend it. Patreon.com/WDWNT is where you can head to check all of that out. Rob, I think you've got a show that you told me you wanted to plug as well here.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, so Deep in the Plus, if you haven't checked it out, I would love you to check it out. We do it every Friday night at 7.
7?
Yeah,
7. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. But last week I had Eric Morton on, and we did the Black Hole. This week we were going to have Jessica, but she's unavailable. Then we were going to do Hello Dolly, and you can't do Hello Dolly without her. And so we're going to do, Ron Deanna and I are going to do Candle Shoe. So I know that some people had asked before about if, Candle Shoe. It's a thing. It's happening. Jodie Foster, look it up. But we're going to, exactly. Ron's going to do that one with me. And hopefully the last week the chat was like, hey, we need to do Escape from Witch Mountain, and we need Jill back for that one.
Nice. So you can find that and all of our other shows over at youtube.com/WDWNT. You can subscribe there and hit the bell to get notified every time we go live. You can also find all our shows streaming at the WDWN Tunes at WDWNtunes.com. Thank you all for watching this. If you're a WIGs member, stay tuned for the post show. Otherwise, we will see you all next week. Oop, that is not the right button. This is the right button.
Bum.